Hello. We are going to be doing some mobility and stretching this morning. And some optional tools that you might want to have is a yoga block and a small ball, or maybe even a foam roller. We'll be using that a little bit later. But we'll focus on hips and back mobility today. So we are going to start on all fours in a tabletop position. And we're just going to start by loosening up the hips and low back with some body circles. So you'll shift your hips over to one side, circle all the way back over the heels, shift the hips over to the other side, and come forward. And then you'll reverse that. So just nice big circles, pressing the hips out to each side and shifting back. So we'll do that several times on each side. You'll also feel that all the way through the shoulders. Reaching those fingertips forward. Feel a stretch in the upper back. It's nice and slow. Maybe linger somewhere if it feels extra good. And we'll do one more time on each side. All right. So now we're going to transition to a child's pose and a cobra. So you're going to be getting some lumbar flexion in child's pose. Knees are nice and wide. Hips come back over the heels. Reach those fingertips forward. And you can rest your head down on the mat. And if you need to bring the floor a little closer, this is a time where you might want a yoga block, depending on what height you need. You can rest your forehead on that block as well. So just flexing the spine, we exhale here. And our inhale will come up to cobra. So come all the way back up on the hands and knees, and then press those hips forward. You can also gaze up. And so now we're just extending and feel those hip flexors and the core. And we're going to shift back and forth between those two movements. So exhale, shift back. Inhale, shift forward. And if coming into a full cobra is too much on the low back, you can just reduce that angle and come down a little bit lower, keeping the core muscles engaged also to help support the low back. And again, we're just mobilizing here. So lots of repetitions with the same movement. Again, gazing up, just extending that stretch in the front side body. And how about 2 more times each way? And then we'll return back to hands and knees. So bring those knees back under the hips and hands under the shoulders. If your wrists get a little sore, you can just flip the wrists over and give them a stretch on the mat. You can always do any of these tabletop poses down on your forearms, or even putting your hands on blocks. If you've got 2 blocks, takes a little bit of that pressure off of the wrists because that can be tender sometimes. So continuing to work through that hip mobility, we're going to do some single leg hip circles. So imagining that ball and socket joint, and you just want to rotate around in that ball and socket joint. So we'll start with bringing one knee toward the elbow, And then open up, circle it all the way back and back down. So again, just imagining that ball and socket joint, keeping nice pressure in the hands to stabilize you. And we'll go several times, circling back. One more. And we'll reverse that. So start pressing that knee back, bring that knee forward towards the elbow and back down. So in the other direction. It's about 1 minute total on each side. So 30 seconds back, 30 seconds forward. 2 more times here. And go ahead and rest, maybe give those wrists a break, and we'll go to the other side. So bringing that knee toward the elbow, opening up to the side and circling back. Two more this direction. And then we will reverse. Really just lubricating through the hip socket, loosening up and mobilizing all of that connective tissue. And again, remember, nice solid pressure with the hands into the mat just to support the upper body. And you can even feel your core engaging here as you stabilize yourself on 3 points. So one more time. And we could do a little hip press out to the side one way and the other way. It's kind of curving your body like a C shape each way. All right, now we're going to come to a low lunge. So again, you might want blocks here, just bringing the floor a little bit closer. We'll step our right foot forward. You can place your hand on a block. And we just move through this hip flexor stretch, rotating side to side, just as we get loose and warm here. And then with your hands on blocks or on the mat, we're going to tuck that back toe and just lift the knee off the mat. So lifting the hips up a little higher and then setting it back down. We'll do that about 15 times on this side. So lift and lower. And you can think when you lower about lifting up through the chest. It's just extending that hip flexor. You can add some arms if you want to reach. Again, just lengthening that front side body. Going at your own pace. And how about 2 more? And we'll switch legs. First, let's take a child's pose, just a little bit of a counter pose, shorten that hip flexor back. We did a lot of opening. Nice long breath. All right, and shift forward, stepping that left foot forward this time. Again, if you want to block, we're just going to stay here for a while, moving and shifting through that right hip flexor this time, lengthening, whatever feels good. And when you're ready, we're going to tuck that back toe, lift the knee off of the mat, and set it back down. And we'll do that 15 times. Let me clear a message. All right, 15 times. Lift and lower, pulling that chest through. Head looking up. Maybe arms reaching up. A lot of length through the hip flexors, just to counteract our lifestyle. Often we're sitting a lot and it shortens our hip flexors. So we are here lengthening. 2 more. All right, let's go back to child's pose, counter pose one more time. Take the knees nice and wide. Nice long breath here. And coming back up. Okay, we're going to go back to our lunge position, taking that right foot forward again. And this time, we're going to turn slightly toward that front knee and let the knee fall open out onto the outside edge of the right foot. And we're just going to turn our body toward that knee and back. So turn, your left hip flexor is lengthening and lowering down toward the mat. It's a small movement. That right knee is opened up out onto the side, but you'll feel a different stretch through the left hip connective tissue. And we'll do 2 more. Step it back. Left lunge forward. Let that knee open out to the side, open to the outside edge of the left foot. Let the right hip lower and lift. Lower and lift. And 2 more. Great. Okay, now we need to find a wall or a couch or something. We're going to stretch out the hips again. So I'm just going to back up. I've got a piece of furniture here. I'm going to put my shins close to it. I'm on my knees. My toes are just going to hook on top of it. And I'm going to lower my hips down. Again, finding that cobra pose. And then shift it back. So just really mobilizing here. We're not holding anything. We're keeping it moving. Looking up, we'll extend that pose even more. We're just doing everything about 15 times. Lengthening the abs, the hip flexors, whole front side body. 2 more. Good. All right, coming away from the wall or the furniture. Now we're going to focus on the back. So we've got our back muscles here that really support, and they are a deep muscle in the lower back that is hard to stretch sometimes. So we're going to go back to child's pose. So reaching forward, slide the fingertips forward till the chest and maybe the forehead drop on the mat or on a block. And we're going to walk both hands over to one side. So I'm going to walk over to the right, and we're just going to hold it and breathe here. So lengthening the left side. Breathing into that open space between the ribs. 2 more breaths. And then we'll walk the hands over to the other side. Walking the hands to the left, lengthening out the right side body. With each exhale, just settling a little more into the stretch. And one more breath here. And walking our way back to center and coming to our seat. We're going to take a V sit. So legs are outstretched to the sides in a V. And we're going to bend one leg in. So really thinking about connecting both of your sits bones on the mat. So making any adjustments, sitting up nice and tall. And again, thinking about those low back muscles. We'll lift up the same arm as the bent knee and take it over. Again, finding that side stretch just like we did in child's pose. Reaching over that extended leg. So fingertips reaching toward the toes. Again, breathing into that open rib cage. Keeping the hip down. On the next inhale, we'll come up. And now we'll turn toward the leg and just maybe walking the hands out. Maybe on an exhale, walking the hands out a bit more. And we'll come back up. Take it to the other side. Again, adjusting your seat so you're connected on the mat. Same arm as the bent knee. Inhales up. And exhale, lengthens up and over, reaching towards the toes. So keeping that shoulder back, really lengthening the right side body. And reaching, breathing into the open side. And if it bothers your neck, you can always look down. Or you could add some movement, maybe a little bit of lateral rotation in the neck, keeping it loose. Keep breathing. On your next inhale, coming back up. And then we'll twist toward that extended leg and walk out on the exhale. Breathing here. Exhale, walk it out a bit farther. Keeping your seat connected. Nice long breaths. Inhale, walk it back up. Okay, now that we have one leg forward, we're going to pull the other leg back and come into a Z sit. And we're going to work on lifting the knees up and over to the other side, Z sit. I forget what Laura calls these. but working on that mobility, if you can do it without any hands, lifting the knees, rotating over. If you want to add to it, lifting the knees, we'll place the hand down and you can lift the hips, pressing them forward. Top arm reaches back. Nice big stretch through that front hip. Again, over to the other side. Hand down, press hips up, reaching back. And just go at your own pace. We don't want to rush it. And the hip lift is just an option. And one more time each side. Evening it out on each side. All right, we're going to take it down onto our back now. And in a few moments, we'll need your ball. You can also use a foam roller or even just a pillow. But for now, we're going to lay on our backs, keeping a bend in the knees. Feet are going to be as wide as the mat. Arms are out at your sides, palms down, and you're pressing the hands into the floor as just a stabilizer. We're going to windshield wiper the knees. So nice and slow, letting them drop to one side. You'll feel a nice stretch through the low back and the hips and maybe even that top quad. And keeping the core engaged, we'll lift the knees up and windshield wiper them to the other side. So taking it slow, depending on your mobility and how you're feeling today. Connecting with the breath, exhaling as the knees lower. Inhale as they come back up. And maybe even taking that head and looking in the opposite direction of the knees, just extending that twist all the way up through the cervical spine. Inhaling, knees up. Exhale, look away. We'll do 2 more times each side. We should be even here. We'll come back to center. Knees are lifted. Maybe retuck those shoulder blades under. Once again, just lifting up through the chest. We're going to take a figure 4. So crossing right ankle over left knee. You can place your right hand on your knee and just press it away, opening up the hip. Bringing the hand back to the floor. We're going to let the right foot cross across the body, taking a twist, keeping both shoulder blades connected to the mat. Let your foot lower down toward the ground if that's okay in your low back. And just breathing here in this twist. You can always place a block underneath maybe the knee or bringing the foot down onto it. Just bringing the floor a little bit closer to support you if the mobility to come all the way down is not there. Again, breathing into the stretch, exhale, releasing a bit more. Both shoulders are still connected to the mat. And as we prepare to come up, engage the core as you lift the knees back to center and take them in the opposite direction. So now the right knee's coming down to the right side. And just breathing here. That left hip is nice and open. One more breath. And engaging the core, coming back to center. We'll switch sides. Left foot crosses over right. Left hand presses the left knee away, opening up the hip. And we'll let the left foot come down toward the floor. Both hands, palms stabilizing against the floor. Core is engaged. Shoulders are connected to the mat. Nice long breaths. Notice if you're holding tension in your neck or your shoulders, try to let that relax. One more long breath here. Engage the core as you bring the knees back to center, and then slowly let them come over to the left side. Core still engaged, shoulders still on the mat. Just go as far as it feels safe in your body. Again, maybe coming down onto a block. Engaging the core and coming back to center. We'll lengthen those legs out, feet about as wide as the mat. And just like we did the windshield wiper knees, we're going to do windshield wiper feet. So it's just a bit of a micro twist coming all the way up into the hips and low back. So taking both feet over to the right side and the left side. It's a bit of a quicker movement. Just notice where you feel that movement connecting all the way up into the hips and low back. And keeping the shoulders and the upper back stable. One more time each side. Now we're going to cross the feet, right foot crossing over left, and do the same thing. So again, you'll feel it all the way up into your low back. Just doing small twists side to side, releasing the low back. And last, you'll stack your left foot on top of the right, and same thing, twist side to side. And over time, mobility should get better so that there's a bigger range of motion here. But again, just keeping the shoulders connected. And we'll release. Now we'll cross left over right, so the ankles are crossed. Twisting side to side, stabilizing the palms of the hands into the floor, core is engaged. And then we'll stack left foot on top of right and find some mobility there. Our next movement is going to be for some neck release. So put a bend into the knees. If you have your ball or your foam roller or pillow, we're just going to put it at the base of the neck. So what it's doing is bringing the chin down. So imagine you're making a double chin against the chest. And then you're going to rotate up. So the ball or the foam roller just allows for that movement. And when your chin is down, the ball is lifting the head. So you're getting a nice stretch through the back of the neck. So connecting your breath, you'll inhale as your neck lengthens and exhale as the chin comes to chest. And maybe noticing that you can take that chin to chest and find a deeper stretch as we get more mobility. And we'll do 2 more in each direction. right, and then we'll take it right to left. Again, keeping that chin down against the chest, rotating the head or the chin over to the right shoulder and over to the left shoulder. And one more time each side. All right, coming back to center, we'll lengthen those legs back out, remove the prop from under the neck. Let your head fall back. Tuck the shoulders under, lifting up through the chest, and this time palms are going to be up. This is called corpse pose. It is going to be our final resting pose for Shavasana. Shavasana is where we rest and just be still, trying to still the mind and the body. And it is where our practice integrates as we let it just absorb into the body. And you can stay here for as long as you like. A great Shavasana is about 10 minutes, but if you're short on time, you can do 3 to 5 minutes. You just really want to get to the point where your body's completely grounded into the mat, where you can release and not hold on to any tension. All you have to do is breathe. So you can stay here as long as you like.